Did you know that men before the age of 45 do not select their mate emotionally? They choose their mate rationally. And so these points are going to be really useful for you to understand some of the logic and rationale men are using for their spouse. You have been dating this man for longer than you'd hoped. Maybe it's 3 years, 2 years, 5, 10, and still no ring. Maybe you've done all the things I told you to do on all the videos. Maybe you have gone to the gym and tried to look extra pretty. You have done everything you can imagine, and still he won't marry you. In this video, we're going to look at why he won't marry you. See you in just a bit. Let's get started. These reasons are not exhaustive, okay? They're not all the reasons he won't marry you, but they're definitely the ones that come up the most in my coaching practice and when I speak to couples. I have had this conversation multiple times. Okay, you've heard it before. He doesn't believe in a piece of paper. He doesn't believe that a man needs to go and register to be with a woman. And his rationale and his logic kind of sounds good. But usually this is because of other more underlying reasons. How many of us have heard the whole "it's a piece of paper" thing? And I heard an influencer on YouTube say something really smart. She said, well, money is a piece of paper, but everybody goes out and works for it. Everybody commits to a job or to a business in order to go and get it. So why is it any different for marriage? That was really very smart. So I want to say this, that we are living in an environment where marriage is becoming more and more unpopular for multiple reasons. In the current digital space, in the relationship space, in the manosphere space, in the femisphere, I have no idea what is going on in this very toxic, very difficult, very confusing environment. There are a lot of men who are jaded, who have been divorced, and who've taken it upon themselves to help younger men not get into those problems. Now, obviously, they may have very, very, very good, very valid reasons to feel this way, but we know that men don't take well to being left, and very rarely do they recover wholly. And we know there is no more dangerous man than a divorced man with a chip on his shoulder and a lens in his face. Of course, I am stereotyping here. I'm sure they're very well-intentioned men. The truth of the matter is, these men and some married men are advising younger men not to marry. Because fair enough, I have not really looked into it really deeply, but I understand the argument that men are always the ones left not so better off in a divorce situation, and sometimes they're not the one at fault. Maybe the spouse is the one that was cheating. Maybe it's the spouse that left them for another man. Maybe it's the spouse that, you know, was abusive and narcissistic. I have met men, I coach men who have been in narcissistic, abusive relationships with women, some that have even had to experience violence from women. So in these instances, the courts tend to lean in favor of the woman. She tends to have custody of the children. Marriage tends to lean in more to the favor of the woman. And so a lot of men are thinking, well, why am I going to commit? Why am I going to commit and find myself in a worse off situation? This for me is very, very sad. But if that's what they feel is necessary, then that's so. So if your man isn't marrying you, please pay attention to the content that he's listening to. Don't be uninterested. Some of us are so busy getting pretty that we're not paying attention to the content our men are consuming. Find out who the people he follows are and study their work. Study their videos, because a lot of men are being terribly brainwashed online. And ultimately, the ones that are promoting healthy relationships, that are teaching men how to have healthy relationships and marriages and promoting it, they don't tend to do very well on the algorithm. And people naturally tend to gravitate towards things that are angry, bitterness. We seem to be drawn to drama. We seem to be drawn to people that are combative, to behavior and mindsets that are destructive. And so you will find that people will navigate more to these channels and to follow these men than those men who are married, who have healthy relationships, who've put in the work and can teach men how to have healthy relationships. These men tend to be perceived as simps. Whenever a man is promoting healthy relationships that have a commitment at the end of it, they're often labeled simps. And so this is a rising problem. It is going to be a 21st century problem because it is going to be the dying of marriage. With that being said, it will not do us any harm to look at the laws and be a little bit more fair in the way that marriage is done. But also, it may be worth a conversation to really define what is marriage. What is marriage for the Christian? What is marriage for the Muslim? What is marriage for the African person? What is marriage for the Western person? In every culture, marriage is different. Marriage is instituted differently. In some cultures, like my own, we pay a dowry to the family, and that is marriage. The other stuff is the legal stuff. Whether you have the paper or not, you're still considered married within your community amongst your people. In many cultures, dowries are paid, families come together, agreements are made, and the exchange of goods is made, and these things are considered marriage. In some situations, the actual marriage ceremony, walking up the aisle and having the blessing of the Lord and committing to each other, is marriage. The rest is legal. So we are in a state, in a world where all of this is happening, but it won't do us any harm to revise some of our definitions of what marriage is. I'm not going to go into this video to discuss what marriage is. You can watch all of Coach Yvonne's videos where she discusses marriage, as she is our marriage and divorce coach. But today I want to hone in on the reasons. So that is reason number one. He is consuming content on the internet that is discouraging marriage. This is important. Get in it, understand it, and be able to reason with him from that place. Because if you try to get emotional about it, you will have a hard time. You need to be able to be logical and present him with an argument, a counter argument that he can buy into. Because genuinely, I do not believe that men want to just make a baby mama of women. I don't believe that in general. I believe there are men out here who just want to do right by a woman, but they are scared and they just need a reason to do the right thing. The other reason why he hasn't married you is because you are low status. What do I mean by this? Men love status. So do us women. Okay, women, we have to have status, okay? But men have to have status. But status is different for both men and women. For a woman, status is what she has, her man, her things, her lifestyle, her class, the things that surround her life give her status. But with men, status has to do with his hierarchy on the totem pole of manhood. Status is being the envy of other men for the masculine. Now, if you are the kind of woman who is out here with her tits and bits out, you are half naked, every man can see your bits, you may very well be very sexy to him and things may get sexy, but in the company of gentlemen, he will not have the status because you will come across as the sort of woman that all of them can sleep with if they wanted to. What gives a man a status is the sense that they all want to sleep with this woman, but the way she shows up and presents herself is that they have to respect her and the relationship. He's not having to fight men off because you're flirting with a guy at the bar. He's not having to sit there and watch you go around cuddling different men in the room. These are all low status things. Men don't want to feel like their woman is havable at any cost, at any point. They don't want to feel like she can just be had by anybody. You have no manners. You have zero etiquette. The truth of the matter is, he cannot take you to a work do because you have little intelligence or very little to say. You're just a pretty face. Or maybe you cannot be bothered to put yourself together properly and you think, well, I'm good. When you cannot bring status to a man in the way that he understands status, then he will not marry you. The next one is you are a liability. What do I mean by this? The moment you entered into his life, he started losing money. He started losing his peace of mind. He started losing. You are a taker. You are an absorber. A real high value, high status, high worth woman is an asset. She shows up in a relationship as an asset. A man's money gets better. A man's career gets better. His mood gets better. Everything about her presence in his life, the grass just gets greener in his life. He just manages to just have great things happen in his life. This is what it is to be an asset. Many of us are liabilities. We're sitting around waiting for some guy who's going to take us out of poverty. We're sitting around waiting for some guy who's going to make us feel whole. And so when we meet this guy, he has to call us 7 days a week and every hour of the day. And now we are drawing on his time, his energy. He's no longer productive. Some of us want him to take us on fancy holidays and do these amazing things. We are a liability. Okay, so if a man feels like you're going to be a long-term liability and his finances are draining just by you being in them, and he's not as productive as he was before, he's definitely not going to take you on permanently and make you his wife.
Simple steps to join Black Swan community. Download the Black Swan app from either Google Play Store or Apple Store. Launch the app and tap on register. Put in your valid information, then tap on continue. Put in the verification code sent to your email to authenticate your account. Then log into your account. Be sure to accept all permissions displayed at installation stage to enjoy all the cool features in the app. You can now enjoy a community of high-value women with support from coaches and trainers. Book calls with coaches, chat, post, and interact with the community. Enjoy!
Thirdly, a lot of men will not marry you because your dream is too big. Many of us are not really committed to marrying the man. We're more committed to the wedding. We want to wear the beautiful dress. We want to have the party. We want to learn the special dance. We want to have pictures to show on Instagram. We want it to be our turn. And we may not be conscious of this, but we are definitely sitting around thinking, when is it gonna be my turn? I want it to be my turn. And so the man knows that it's not really him you want to marry. You just want your big party. And because men are so intuitive, this is why they will refrain. Nobody wants to be used to make somebody else's dreams come true at all costs. We want to be each other's dream come true. Some of us on this point, it's not that we don't want the man. It's just that we want him and the big party. And he's looking at his finances and thinking, if I indulge the big party, then, well, we won't have any money to pay the bills. I won't be able to sustain a family because, let's face it, weddings are expensive. The last I checked, the average wedding was $30,000. It probably has gone up to even more. And a man who is sensible is going to be thinking about the cost of this big party. And as long as he cannot afford it, he will not propose. So you might have to rethink some of your dreams. Perhaps you're okay with a small, intimate ceremony between the two of you and two witnesses, and then maybe in the future have your big party. But if a man feels like you are obsessed with a big party and he cannot afford it, unfortunately, he will not marry you. The next reason is he simply has insufficient attraction. He finds you attractive, he thinks you're a good girl, but you don't make his heart beat fast at 100 miles an hour. You were the girl that he settled for, couldn't do better, and stuck around long enough to get his sexual stability. I know we think men are out here just getting laid left, right, and center, but the truth is only 20% of men are getting laid. Only 20% of men are sleeping with 80% of women. Okay, so the truth is many men don't actually get to secure their sexual stability. Many men don't get chosen by many of us women. Many men are getting old as virgins, and this is something that is growing more and more in our society as the internet has created an imbalance. So what we're finding is that the men that are securing their sexual stability, usually a few. If you fall into the not 20%, you will settle for a woman who at least will keep your bed warm at night. who at least will be a woman, but this is not really your desire. And many men would rather just coast through with a woman they don't really find attractive, they don't really desire her, don't really want to be with her, but she is useful for particular things. If that is you, you're gonna have to check your gut and see if it feels like you. Does he seem to coast? Does he make an effort? Or is it more a one-sided relationship where you do all the effort making and he is the one that's in the receptive? Do you find that the relationship is you holding it up all by yourself? Well, if this is the case, that means he's there for the perks and not for you. The moment the perks end, he's probably gonna go. The perks are not enough for him to feel like he needs to commit. In this instance, choose yourself and keep it moving. Last, but absolutely not least, many of us suffer from betteritis. Okay, I think I heard Matthew Hussey use the word. I've heard it from somebody, but I thought it was fantastic. Betteritis is something where we decide that we can do better. Some of us are so caught up in the culture of better. I can do better. I can do better. And men get caught up in that too. So whilst they adore you, whilst they think you're fantastic, whilst they think you would make a great wife, somewhere in the back of his mind, he's thinking, I bet I can do better. I bet I can get better. I bet I could, if I hang on long enough, I can do better. And so many of us get stuck waiting for better. As men still as well get stuck waiting for better. So this is some of the reasons, definitely some of the common reasons that a man will not marry you. I met a couple recently, and you know, I'm gonna give you a bonus point why a man will not marry you. This is usually for men that are a little bit older. As men get into andropause, they start to need an emotional connection. When men are hitting 45 and plus, they need an emotional connection. But a lot of us are constantly stuck on our phones. We're always on our phones. We're always preoccupied with our phones. And this man is starting to feel neglected. This gives him a deep sense of resentment. It's really important that when we're with our partners, we put down our phones because they are feeling secondary to our phones. It's not that it's the physical device of the phone, but it's the cerebral world you're creating for yourself. Your alternate reality that you're creating for yourself that does not involve him. You are keeping and creating a world that does not have him in it. And it can work the other way around as well. But nobody wants to be in a relationship with somebody who is just there emotionally, mentally, part-time. Ladies, we need to put down our phones and give committed time to our children and to our partners. We need to be present with men too. I know we think they're just a bunch of brutes with no emotional space at all, who just want to jump into knickers, but this is not true. Men are actually more vulnerable and sensitive emotionally than we are. And so it's really important that we are respectful and show up with them and to them. It's okay to put your phone away and actually figure out how his day was, how things went for him, how things unfolded for him, what are his dreams, what are his plans, and how can you support him. If you spend all your time on your phone and not actually having riveting conversations, this man is not going to want to recruit somebody permanently who is going to do nothing but self-soothe through social media. So I hope that this video was really helpful. I look forward to seeing you in my next one. In the meantime, take care of you. Well done for coming to the end of this video. What I want to ask you is, what have you learned? What is your takeaway? And what are you going to start practicing right away? Those 3 things are how you are going to get the best out of every class here at the Black Swan Relationship Academy. Please put it in the comments so that we can all have a look. So I can have a look, the coaches can have a look, and I promise you, we read every comment. We may not be able to reply to every comment, but we read all of your comments and we want to see how you are growing. And we will see you on the next video.